Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Red Dragon Archfiends. So I apologize for the delay simply because, I just went through a Hurricane Barrel to be exact. And yeah, my area got hit pretty bad, but don't worry, I'm all good here. My house is perfectly fine. The only thing I really lost was just like a part of my fence, and that's about it. But I just been so busy with cleanup, and work's also been pretty nuts because like one of the locations got shut down, so a lot of work has been going to me. So yeah, it's been pretty stressful. But anyway, I'm back now, and I figured I'd just bring you guys one of the deck profiles I promised, and thankfully this is one that I was able to finish pretty quickly. I'm still waiting on one last order for my Ice Bearers. The main and side deck are pretty much done, and a majority of the extra deck, I'm just waiting on one last card, and yeah, I can finally bring you guys the Ice Bearer deck that I promised. But anyway, for today, bringing you guys Red Dragon Archfiend. And I gotta say, Red Dragon Archfiend got crazy, especially with the new support card that came out in Battles of Legend Terminal Revenge, which we'll elaborate more momentarily. My build is 40 cards. I actually took a couple pages off Mega Capital G's build simply because I like the way his was, but my ratios are going to be vastly different. And also a couple of my extra deck choices are going to be a little bit different as well. And yeah, again, we'll just talk about that momentarily more. All right, so starting off with the main deck, as I mentioned, 40 cards, playing 3 copies of Soul Resonator. Definitely your best starter in the entire deck. When this card is normal or special summon, you can add any level 4 or lower Fiend monster from your deck to your hand. It is also a fire monster, which is actually pretty relevant, which, again, thanks to the new support card, I'm going to explain why that is. And also, if any of your cards would be destroyed by card effects while you control a Red Dragon Archfiend, you can, or a single monster that mentions it, you can banish this card from your graveyard and protect it. So basically, kind of like Balinks or Return of the Dragon Lords. So yeah, Soul Resonator does come up quite a bit. Next, 2 copies of Vision Resonator. As long as there's a level 5 Dark Monster on the field, doesn't matter who controls it, you can special summon this card. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add any spell or trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend, and we do have a few targets for this. So yeah, Vision Resonator is really, really good for that reason. And it's a level 2, so like you should be able to flex things out a little bit. Soul Resonator is level 3, so like as long as you pair with the right non-tuners, like you can basically single climb fairly quickly with these guys. Speaking of which, 2 copies of Synchron Resonator. It's a level 1 tuner, which is probably my favorite level 4 tuner monster, simply because like depending on like what your board state is, like that can come up a lot. Synchron Resonator has an effect where if there's a synchro monster on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. Of course, you can only special summon it once per turn this way, but it does have a non-once per turn effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add back any Resonator monster from your graveyard except itself, so great way just to recycle your Soul Resonator or your Vision just for follow-up plays. And also, thankfully, we are playing Red Rising Dragon in the extra deck, so like if you happen to have 2 of these in your graveyard, you can banish the Red Rising Dragon, special summon both back from the grave. So there's a lot of flexibility with these guys. And finally, 1 copy of Crimson Resonator. It's basically like Cyber Dragon. As long as you control no monsters at all, you can special summon this card. But it's one of those cards I prefer to search or just dump to the graveyard, especially because like with Red Rising Dragon being a thing, you can just special summon this card and then just take advantage of its secondary effect. Where if you control this and 1 other Dark Synchro monster only, you can special summon 2 more Resonators directly from your deck. So Crimson Resonator is just great for utility. Moving on to the new support card, playing 3 copies of Red Lotus King Flame Prime. This card is actually pretty nuts. During the main phase, if you control a Fiend Tuner or an opponent's monster, or if your opponent controls a special summon monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then when you do, if this card is special summoned, you can burn your opponent for 400 points of damage for every fire monster you control. And this can include itself too, so great way just to deal with time. And considering that we do have some burn effects anyway, this actually just helps you. It just paves the way for burning your opponent and then just OTKing them really quickly, and that's one of the things I like about this deck. If this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can send any 1 normal trap from your deck to the graveyard. So great way to get cards like the Black Oak Labs or Red Rain. So yeah, there's a lot of good normal traps you can play that have some kind of like graveyard utility. Next up, 3 copies of Bone Archfiend. I like it because not only does doesn't eat up your normal summon, you just pitch a card and special summon this card, but I also like the fact that it's a level modulator, and it's a pretty good card overall. So like, yeah, it's Foolish Burial, it's a free special summon, and again, the fact that you can just modulate levels can be pretty handy whenever you really need it to, you know? Next, 2 copies of Earthbound Prisoner Stonesweeper. If there's a field spell, if there's a card in the field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand, which might not come up a lot, but I mean, we are in the format where there's still a lot of field spell decks, so this could actually pop up if you really needed to, but you're mostly going to use it for its discarding effect, where you pitch this card from your hand, you can add any level 3 or lower Fiend Tuner monster from your deck to your hand, and that's actually really important because we are on a lot of Fiend Tuners, so yeah, Earthbound Prisoner Stonesweeper is really good. Next, one Wandering King Wildwind. It's a good extender. As long as you control a Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack, you can special summon this card to your hand. It's searchable too, so I like it. And one copy of Obsessive Uvialoop, another great tuner monster just to, just to add to your hand, especially because like you can search this off of a Wildwind, or if you wanted to, you could actually dump this to your graveyard with Foolish Burial and just special summon it by its own effect. And yeah, it comes up a lot. Alright, so that's it for this package. Now moving on to the hand traps. For my hand trap lineup, I'm playing 3 copies of Ash, since, it is the most generic one. I'm also playing 3 copies of Ghost Mourner. I really like it in this deck, again, because we are on several different burn effects, and this one also has a burn effect of its own. If your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, face up except during the damage step, you can discard this card, then target one of those monsters, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Also, if that face up monster leaves the field this turn, its controller takes damage equal to its original attack, which is really good because, like, especially against the Bystials where your opponent's going to want to hit you with Bystials during your turn, you can just, like, you can discard this, target it, negate its effects, and also, if you get rid of it, like, by, like, one of your dragon's popping effects, yeah, that's just going to be pretty detrimental to your opponent. And, yeah, it's pretty annoying to deal with, honestly. Next up, 3 copies of Infinite Imperm. Definitely another great hand trap just to run. In fact, it's still one of the best ones ever made, so I definitely like it. Alright, so now for the spells. Playing 3 copies of Resonator Call. It's Rhoda for Resonators. 3 Crimson Gaia, another great card. This card just has so many different effects. During your main phase, you can add 1 Red Dragon Archfiend or 1 card that mentions it from your deck or grave back to your hand, except Crimson Gaia. When a Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack, you can change all monsters your opponent controls into face-down defense mode, which is pretty crazy because, like, the original Red Dragon Archfiend has an effect where it pops all defense position monsters, so that can actually come up. And also, if a monster on the field is destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can special summon 1 Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard. And we do have 3 different monsters that count as Red Dragon Archfiend from our extra deck, so you actually have a means to revive any of them, really. 2 Triple T and 1 Called by the Grave, just to play around hand traps, and 1 Foolish Burial, just a good starting card to have. And for the traps, I'm playing the 1 Red Zone. It's searchable. When your opponent activates a card or effect while you control Red Dragon Archfiend, or a synchro monster that mentions it, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it, and then you can target 1 of your banished Dark Dragon synchro monsters and special summon it. So it's a pop and a monster reborn. So yeah, Red Zone's pretty nuts. And if you do lose it, Crimson Gaia can basically recycle it for you, so it's never really gone for good. 1 Red Rain, this card is essentially one of the win cons of this deck. If you control a level 8 or higher synchro monster, banish all monsters on the field except monsters with the highest level. Also, the remaining face-up monsters on the field are unaffected by other card effects except their own. Until the end of this turn, if a Dark Dragon synchro monster is synchro summoned to your hand, while this card is in your graveyard, you can add itself back to hand. So Red Rain actually has a lot of utility, and you can just bring this off of, you can just send this off of the Lotus King, and yeah, there's just so much you can do with it. And I'm taking a page out of Mega Capital G's build, the Blackout Laughs. I actually like this card. This card actually, I was hoping this card was going to be really good, and thankfully with the Lotus King, it actually is now. I kind of regret not getting a playset when this card was cheap, but honestly, for a deck like this, you only need the 1. It's good for just about anything, as long as you call the right monsters. So like if, again, he mentioned it with the Tempai Dragons against the Yubel matchup. If you call Spirit of Yubel, like, it's not going to be able to use the effect to bring out the originals, because like you want to try to keep that. You want to try to keep the original Yubel from coming out, or if anything, you can also call Phantom of Yubel, and they can't use their effects. So like that can also come up quite a bit. So yeah, Blackout Laughs, definitely try it out if you're interested. Again, you'd only need just the 1, but if not, there are other options out there that you can use instead. All right, so now for the extra deck, playing 3 copies of Red Rising Dragon, probably your most important synchro, because like it's level 6, it's incredibly easy to make. On special summon, you can target one Resonator monster in your graveyard, special summon it. And also, it has a graveyard effect where if you banish it from your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, by the way, you can special summon 2 level 1 Resonator monsters, which thankfully we do play the 2 Synchron Resonators. So Red Rising comes up quite a lot. It's going to be your, like I said, your kind of like your stepping stone into Synchro climbing. Next, 2 copies of Red Dragon Archfiend. I definitely love this card. It counts as Red Dragon Archfiend while on the field or in the graveyard. And if this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can special summon back the original Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck, and it counts as a synchro summon. Also, if this card was sent to the graveyard as synchro material for a Dark Dragon synchro monster, you can destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls. So yeah, this card is pretty nuts. Playing 2 copies of the original Red Dragon Archfiend just to pair with a Scard. If this card attacks a defense position monster, destroy all defense position monsters your opponent controls. And after damage calculation, during the end phase, destroy all other monsters you control that did not declare an attack this turn. So, yeah, I definitely like Red Dragon Archfiend for what it is. Next up, 1 Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, and this one also counts as Red Dragon Archfiend while on the field and in the grave. Once per turn, you can destroy as many special summon effect monsters on the field as possible with attack less than or equal to this card's attack points, and then you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster that was destroyed. So that's actually really crazy because, like, as I mentioned, like, there are ways you can just burn your opponent and just make it that much easier for you to just OTK them if you can pull it off. And not to mention, this can also help you win through time, which, yeah, I know a lot of people don't like to win that way, but I mean, or don't like to lose that way, but I mean, if you gotta win, you gotta win. Next up, 1 copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Definitely a great negator. And if you actually chain the right card to like a card like Dark Ruler No More, this card can actually play around it. So the most common thing is like you chain a spell or trap to Dark Ruler No More, and this card can actually chain to the card you activated and just negate the Dark Ruler No More that way. 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane. This card's also pretty strong. It's a monster reborn, but again, I also like the fact that it's just big. I actually played the 1 copy of Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend. I know this is not commonly played in Red Dragon Archfiend decks, but I personally like it because it plays around evenly matched. During the battle phase, if your opponent activates a spell or trap effect, or a trap card, you can just negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Also, this card gains 500 attack points, and that's a permanent power boost. So, yeah, I definitely like Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend for that reason. I'm playing the 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Now that Konami kind of announced that the next ban list won't be out until late August, might as well just take advantage of it. I'm pretty sure this card's going to get banned. In fact, I know a lot of people are sick and tired of this card, but yeah, might as well just play it while it's still legal. 1 Red Supernova Dragon. This card's also pretty strong. Gets a lot of attack points for every tuner monster in your graveyard, 500 attack to be exact. So, and considering we have a lot of them, yeah, this card's going to get pretty big. And it's also a banisher, so Red Supernova Dragon could be one of the most annoying cards to ever deal with. 1 Queebolt, the Blade Dragon, pops a card on Synchro Summon, so pretty handy. And of course, 1 Bestial Dispatter, just to have some kind of negate in this deck, as well as just aside from Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend and Abyss. So yeah, I definitely like it. And it's also a Dark Dragon monster, so that actually helps out a lot too. For the side deck, it's a little weird, but I had to adjust my ratios accordingly because, you know, just to deal with certain disruptions. So playing 3 Drone Lockbird, since Fiendsmiths are just around the corner, and that engine's going to be pretty scary to deal with. 2 DD Crow, it's pretty flexible. I definitely like it a little bit more than the Bestials. 2 Nib, and 3 Crossout Designators. Again, I'm just playing, like, I'm trying to adjust my ratios just so I can play Crossout and have different targets for the cards that do kind of like kill my deck. 2 Lightning Storm and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, as well as 2 copies of D-Barrier. Once again, you know, just, not only are they just good in general, but they're also good targets for your Crossout Designator. So it just depends on like what I need to sight in for those kind of cards. Because like, yeah, any one of these can basically just kill me right then and there. Well, anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.